Get 3.99% financing on select new Volvos for 72 months. See store for details. Customers enjoy the stress-free and satisfactory experience Cherry Hill Volvo provides. Cherry Hill Volvo, where relationships matter.
Station WPHT AM, an equal opportunity employer, is dedicated to providing broad outreach regarding job vacancies at this station. We seek the help of local community organizations in referring qualified applicants to our station. Community organizations that wish to receive our vacancy information should contact Lisa Morton at WPHT AM by calling 215-234-2400. In addition, all listeners are encouraged to visit odysseyinc.com/careers for an online listing of job openings at all Odyssey radio stations.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-511-3535. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-511-3535. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-511-3535. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-511-3535, 800-511-3535, or biglou.com.
Talk Radio 1210, WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3, Philadelphia. Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Live and local from Philadelphia. The Dawn Stensland Show on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
One mother expressing her heartache as she said, "This is not a normal Monday. This is October 7th. And the grief, the vigils, and yes, the rallies, those who are anti-Israel, they say they're pro-Hamas. We'll get into all of it today, but it certainly is appropriate to think about what is really going on. We have hostages, 4 Americans being held hostages for 1 year. As we think about what happened 1 year ago today during what can only be called a terrorist attack on innocent civilians. A year later, 64 people, including 2 children, are still being held against their will, still in captivity, and Israel believes the 64 people are still alive. For the Palestinian militant group that now rules the Gaza Strip, these hostages are viewed as a key bargaining chip to negotiate a truce with Israel and seek the release of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. So who are these hostages being held and hopefully still alive down in caves, hopefully getting food and water? 52 men, 10 women, 2 children. So of those original 251 hostages seized by militants 1 year ago today, 117 have been freed, most of them women, children, as well as foreign workers. Most released during a week-long truce that happened, remember, in late November. And that was in exchange for 240 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. Nearly a year later, Israel believes still a year later that 64 hostages are still held in Gaza alive. And the army has confirmed 70 others are dead, 33 of those bodies still in Gaza. And so even within the past 24, 36, 48 hours, I could take you through it as far as Israel defending itself. But when you think about the 2 children, they are the youngest hostages. Well, the youngest, Kafir, was just 8.5 months old when he was kidnapped. And the other, his brother, Ariel, who was only 4 years old when he was taken to Gaza. So Hamas has since claimed that the 2 children are dead. Israel has not confirmed that, in part because there were some videos released of, children who appeared to be, the children appeared to be a few months older or many months older, and they were being taught different culture, a different language, and that gives their family members, their loved ones, hope. As far as our vigils, the rallies taking place as I speak across our region and across the nation, yes, there are pleas for peace. But when you think about how this is being reported, and I always talk about the media being complicit, even locally and nationally, and in the Philadelphia Inquirer, they talk about both sides. And they talk about advocates for Palestine, advocates for Israel. I don't see it as being reported as such. The way I personally see it, as victims of terrorists, victims who 1 year ago, there was a religious festival going on, a celebration, the music was loud. And this morning, those pictures, and this happened yesterday, being transposed as looking at the 1,200 killed that day. And yes, of the hostages killed, those still believed to be alive. But this was a terrorist attack. These people were innocent people. And many of them, we saw it. We've lived this. But for their family members, for the community, for their loved ones holding out hope, the way I see that this is a terrorist attack. Hostages still being held. Yes, I certainly acknowledge that mainly children, and it's reported tens of thousands of those, those Palestinians, that's what they're calling them, in Gaza, those individuals, mainly children, by the thousands, if not tens of thousands. But I see them as also victims of mostly children who were basically used as human shields, sacrificed by the terrorists. Okay, that's how I would report it. That's how I see it. That those children especially killed in Gaza, you may say they're pro-Hamas. Well, they were too young to vote, and certainly there hasn't been a vote in, 20 years, and even if they are children and their parents support this, they did not deserve to be held as human shields, to die in this conflict. As I speak, just within the past 24 hours, we've seen more action, Israel defending itself. And yes, now we see this happening with Hezbollah, another terrorist group in Lebanon, and more human shields, more death. And even, I reported this to you last week, we see American military bases, they're being fired upon as we are drawn, as Americans and our military, drawn into this conflict. So I want to take you to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we'll get into the Trump rally, Trump speaking, Elon Musk. What an incredible day and a beautiful tribute to the one man who was killed by an assassin's bullet, a bullet intended for Trump that, yes, injured Trump and shot him, but the bullet that struck, obviously, our hero, Fire Chief Corey Comparator, a beautiful tribute. I'll get to that. But I want to get to the young man who spoke, who said that, yes, he was a Democrat and has been traditionally. He's a Jewish young man who spoke at the Trump rally, strongly talking about this and saying why he will vote for Donald J. Trump, why Kamala Harris, the vice president, will not get his vote. And it's really on this issue, as he, first and foremost, he talks about how shocked, well, one of the greatest presidents, the first one, would be if he could see what's happening on our college campuses, including here in Pennsylvania.
In 1790, President George Washington addressed the Jewish community in Newport, Rhode Island. And he told them that here in the United States, bigotry would be given no sanction and persecution no assistance. Since arriving in 1654, we Jewish Americans have fought and died for this country. We have participated in all areas of civic life, and we have pursued life, liberty, and happiness. We Jewish Americans are not guests in this country. We Jewish Americans are part of this country. How horrified, how shocked, how disgusted would President Washington be today to know that in the 21st century, Jewish Americans are being physically assaulted on their college campuses, are being denied access to their education because of their religious identity. And get this, when 45 Americans were butchered, when 8 Americans were taken hostage by Hamas terrorists on October 7th, our academic, intellectual elites, our young liberal classmates, not only did they not condemn the atrocity, they praised it.
And so he goes on today or went on over the weekend. This was Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, at the big Trump rally, the return to the scene of the crime, if you will, the return to the scene where an assassin hoped to take the life of former President Donald J. Trump. But this is Shabazz Kastenbaum speaking as the crowd that was cheering him on as he confesses that he has long been a Democrat, but now listen to what he says.
What is so great about this country is we can disagree. So hold your boos, but I have something embarrassing to admit. I'm a Democrat. No, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I have good news. For the last 10 months, I have tried pressuring my party to take the issues of anti-Semitism seriously. Biden and Harris have refused to meet with any of us Jewish students as we try to fight for our civil rights on college campuses. The Senate Democrats have refused to hold hearings on anti-Semitism. Instead, all lives mattering the issue, talking about all forms of hate. And of the close to 100 members of Congress who left Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech as he fights for the survival of the Jewish state, all but one were Democrats. My fellow Jewish Americans, I'm speaking to you. We are politically homeless. Elections are binary choices. And this election, I have good news. I am going to vote for the president who told us that he will not allow 1 penny of the American taxpayer money to fund anti-Semitic, un-American universities like Harvard, like Columbia, like MIT.
I want to remind you of my interview last week as well with Pennsylvania Treasurer Stacey Garrity. She's not named in the Philadelphia Inquirer that I saw, I think it was yesterday or today, as they were talking about the fact that some of these pro-Palestinian groups here in our area are calling for and denouncing the state treasurer, Garrity. They're calling for her to not do any investments, right, in Israel. And you heard her talking about that, saying that this is a critical issue to her and that she would never do that. But that's one of the pushes that they're talking about. And isn't it interesting that that's not being profiled? That's not getting a high profile. Why? Because she's a Republican up for re-election. And so these pro-Palestinian groups are ripping into her, saying, don't vote for her. She's a Republican. Well, one of the reasons that Jewish Pennsylvanians are being urged to vote for her is to say, this is somebody who is standing strong with Jews, standing strong with Israel, and will not be bullied or influenced by these different groups. And speaking of that, let's listen to, this is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, I know he's speaking out about that little Macron, that little creepazoid with his older wife who was like a teacher, whatever. I won't get into it. But this is
wrong with that.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's nickname is Bibi, obviously. But he's speaking about this and just describing what he's up against.
Today, Israel is defending itself on 7 fronts against the enemies of civilization. We're fighting in Gaza against Hamas, those savages who murdered, raped, beheaded, and burned our people on October 7th. We're fighting in Lebanon against Hezbollah, the most heavily armed terror organization in the world, which was planning an even greater massacre than October 7th on our northern border, and that has rocketed Israeli towns and cities for nearly a year. We're fighting against the Houthis in Yemen and the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria that together have launched hundreds of drones and missile attacks against Israel. We're fighting against terrorists in Judea and Samaria who are trying to murder civilians in the heart of our cities. And we're fighting against Iran, which last week fired over 200 ballistic missiles directly at Israel, and which stands behind the seven-front war against Israel. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel. Shame on them. Is Iran imposing an arms embargo on Hezbollah, on the Houthis, on Hamas, and on its other proxies? Of course not. The axis of terror stands together. But countries who supposedly oppose this terror axis call for an arms embargo on Israel. What a disgrace. Well, let me tell you this. Israel will win with or without their support, but their shame will continue long after the war is won.
Yes, shame. And our friend Jeff Bartos, and thanks, Jeff, for this. He wrote a great piece in Broad and Liberty and reminding us what Netanyahu said back in July when he was visiting here. You know, when basically the vice president of the United States kind of blew him off because, you know, she had to meet with some of her sorority sisters. Biden met with him later in the week, but it was shameful. And remember who said, yes, please come to my house. So Netanyahu was invited and the red carpet rolled out for Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago as well as his family. But remember what he said, and thank you, Jeff, for this. Our enemies are your enemies. Our fight is your fight, and our victory will be your victory. It's critical. You know, I could go on and on about this and how upset I am about the way the media is reporting on this. I do want to share with you what Ronald Reagan had done and what he had said, and this is back in the 80s, and how he teed up a policy that, by the way, back then in the mid-80s was bashed by Joe Biden. And this is something that former President Donald J. Trump, I believe, in so many ways, think of Make America Great Again. Think of the influence of Reagan on Trump. And that's what I believe, that you see a direct link between the two of them. So I want to link that all up. And the victory recently for Israel, the reason they're not wiped off the mat, is actually because of Republican policies and something that Reagan did that Trump wants to carry on that torch. So I'll talk about that moving forward and as well get your take. Are we talking about Italy here? Oh, I heard a little music.
No, this is some French music for Mr. Macron, President Macron.
Oh,
yeah.
What a creepazoid. But I want to get to that because I think it's important to say that this is, if you look at Trump's policies and not what he used to tweet out, now X out, right? But if you look at the policies that he embraces, whether it's on Israel, whether it's on our economy, whether it's on energy, whether it's on abortion, I can go through all of these. And like I say, the very slogan that I played for you with Reagan was the one who said, "Make America Great Again." In many ways, Trump has vowed to carry on the policies that were and have been very popular because they were the policies of Ronald Reagan. Your take on that? We'll have so much more right around the corner, right here on The Dawn. Thanks for being here on The Dawn Show. Be right back.
Hey, it's Rich Isioli. You know that Dr. Mike Veneri is my friend. He's my dentist. He's the master of dental implants. Did you also know that he hosts an annual Veterans Breakfast every year to thank our men and women who have served our country? And he also hosts a free community shredding event so you can shred all those confidential, sensitive documents so nobody hacks your identity and tracks you down. Saturday, November 9th, Veterans Day weekend. Your opportunity to come out, say hello to our veterans, thank them, get some coffee, cake, donuts, even breakfast pizza. Breakfast pizza, what's that? It's a real thing. And if you've been thinking about about getting that beautiful smile you deserve, reach out to my buddy Dr. Mike Veneria. For 12 years, he's been recognized among his peers as a master of dental implants. He's a guy who cares, he gives back to our veterans and our community, and he's my entire family's dentist. You won't be disappointed. So come out on Saturday, November 9th for the Veterans Event and free community shredding event. Go to veneriadental.com for more information. veneriadental.com. I'll see you Saturday, November 9th at his Cinnaminson office, veneriadental.com.
Are you worried about the state of the economy? Concerned about market crashes and rising inflation wiping out your savings? At Noble Gold Investments, we understand your fears and have a solution. Call us today at 1-888-403-1050. Imagine safeguarding you and your family with a tangible asset that has stood the test of time. Gold. With Noble Gold Investments, you can diversify your portfolio and protect your wealth from economic turmoil. Our team will guide you through the process, ensuring you make informed decisions that best suit your needs. Call Noble Gold Investments today at 1-888-403-1050. That's 1-888-403-1050. The future is uncertain. Take control now. Call 1-888-403-1050.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Medicare is making important changes in 2025. Independence Blue Cross can help. Our Medicare Advantage plans include premiums as low as $0, dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage. The deadline to enroll is December 7th. Visit ibxmedicare.com/radio. Independence Blue Cross offers PPO, HMO, POS, and HMO Medicare Advantage plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Independence Blue Cross PPO, HMO, POS, and HMO Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal.
I'm Sally Helm with the podcast History This Week. In each episode, we serve as your eyes and ears into history's biggest events, major elections, world wars, scientific breakthroughs. But we also bring you into the smaller, behind-the-scenes stories, the unsung heroes, secret meetings, even personal grudges that changed the course of history. Listen to and follow History This Week, an Odyssey podcast in partnership with the History Channel. Available now for free on the Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts.
I have a challenge for you. I want you to write down everything that you worry about, from your kids to your bills, from the economy to the election. It would probably be a pretty long list. And when you get to a certain age, you can add retirement to that list. Did you save enough? What do you do about Social Security? Is your money in the right place? And is that 401k going to cause you a tax problem? We all worry about retirement. At Spectrum Wealth Partners, they're offering a complimentary retirement consultation. It's a free meeting to talk through all those concerns. So instead of worrying about retirement, let Spectrum Wealth show you ways to help retire your worries. Call 856-322-8686 or at SpectrumWP.com. And tune in to the Retirement Spectrum with Alan Cohen, Saturdays at 3 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Advisory services offered through Concurrent Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Concurrent Investment Advisors, LLC, and Spectrum Wealth Partners are not affiliated companies.
Hey, Joe DeCamera here to tell you why Family and Company Jewelers on Route 70 in Marlton, New Jersey is South Jersey's diamond destination and your trusted jeweler for quality, service, and price. You can choose from the largest selection of engagement rings in the area, or you can have their master jewelers create a custom one-of-a-kind ring just for your special day. Visit their showroom or shop online at familyjewelers.com. That's familyjewelers.com. Family and Company Jewelers, South Jersey's diamond destination.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel yet?
Not yet.
Do it today.
Okay.
At 1210 WPHT.
As I was saying...
Love it. Yes, it was an incredibly beautiful, it was just a beautiful day, wasn't it? As Donald J. Trump, as we can celebrate that he survived, but also commemorate the life of a hero who acted as a human shield and shielded his wife and his two daughters. They were there, his widow, Helen. And I know that GoFundMe continues as they want to support him. So we'll get.
And of course, there's one more hero who could not make it back here tonight because he is no longer with us. Right? You know who that is, right? Corey, our beautiful Corey.
And so it's 6/11, which was obviously the same time last time we were in Butler on J13th, and it was 6:11 p.m. So they held the moment of silence, Ave Maria. It was just an incredibly emotional moment, a lot of love and a lot of tears. I want to bring you full circle here and just think about Ronald Reagan, take you back to 1983. I'd seen that the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, they had posted on social media when Israel was able to, defend herself against this evil in the world, these terrorists who otherwise would have wiped Israel off the map. And we saw that with, my goodness, Iran. Can you imagine Iran launching these missiles and having the audacity to do that in a Trump administration? Never. And so the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute had reminded all of us, thank God for the Iron Dome, saying we witnessed another reminder of the importance of missile defense as Israel's Iron Dome successfully intercepted hundreds of Iranian missiles. President Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, really laid the foundation for systems like these. When he announced SDI in 1983...
It's an unfortunate name, though.
SDI, yes. But President Reagan envisioning a world where we could intercept and destroy strategic ballistic missiles before they reached our own soil or that of our allies, just as the Iron Dome did today. This is Ronald Reagan back in 1983.
America does possess now the technologies to attain very significant improvements in the effectiveness of our conventional non-nuclear forces. Proceeding boldly with these new technologies, we can significantly reduce any incentive that the Soviet Union may have to threaten attack against the United States or its allies. As we pursue our goal of defensive technologies, we recognize that our allies rely upon our strategic offensive power to deter attacks against them. Their vital interests and ours are inextricably linked. Their safety and ours are one, and no change in technology can or will alter that reality. We must and shall continue to honor our commitments. I clearly recognize that defensive systems have limitations and raise certain problems and ambiguities. If paired with offensive systems, they can be viewed as fostering an aggressive policy, and no one wants that. But with these considerations firmly in mind, I call upon the scientific community in our country, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace, to give us the means of rendering these nuclear weapons impotent and obsolete. Tonight, consistent with our obligations under the ABM Treaty and recognizing the need for closer consultation with our allies, I'm taking an important first step. I am directing a comprehensive and intensive effort to define a long-term research and development program to begin to achieve our ultimate goal of eliminating the threat posed by strategic nuclear missiles.
So think about that, Ronald Reagan. This is 1983. And I'll point you to, just to give full attribution here, the Wall Street Journal had an incredible opinion piece entitled, "Joe Biden Was Wrong, Star Wars Saved Israel." And remember the Star Wars, just the fact that Reagan knew how to mess with the Soviets' mind and bring down the wall, all of that. This was and is a winning philosophy launched by one Ronald Reagan, one that, in fact, former President Trump has carried on with, remember, Space Force, and they all want to make fun of Space Force, or they did until now. And we now see that this is all brilliant. This was all the brainchild of one Ronald Reagan. So listen to Joe Biden, who is always wrong and always horrible about foreign policy. This is Joe Biden in 1986 referring to and responding to Reagan wanting these silly systems, these defense systems. Here's Joe Biden, 1986.
This brings us to the administration's fifth myth, and surely the most remarkable in my opinion. Unable or unwilling to build on arms control progress of his predecessors, and under mounting public pressure as a result, the president in 1983 performed an astounding political act. Like the Baryshnikov of nuclear politics, he simply pirouetted and leaped over the entire issue, announcing a presidential vision that the American people could escape nuclear danger, not by arms control, but by erecting an anti-nuclear Astrodome over the United States of America. This immaculately conceived notion has obviously demonstrated that it has a certain mystical appeal. Unfortunately, it has no possibility of practicable implementation, as asserted by an overwhelming body of scientific opinion, by common sense, and even reportedly by Assistant Secretary Pearl in his private conversations with our allies.
Yeah, well, another certain secretary, former defense secretary, and this is Robert Gates, remember that he had said that he thinks Joe Biden hasn't stopped being wrong for 40 years. Remember that famous quote, and then he reiterated it. And this is somebody who is a defense secretary under multiple different administrations, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, saying, I think he has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. That's Defense Secretary Robert Gates. Boom. It's a mic drop moment. And he's doubled down on that because remember, he had the book, another new book that had come out while Biden was president. And he was asked, well, now that Biden's president, and you can look back, would you change your opinion? No, he said. He hasn't stopped being wrong for 40 years. There you have it. And so here is Israel now utilizing that technology that he's calling mystical. And who has said that we should look into that for our protection in America and that we should explore these great new frontiers? Donald J. Trump has vowed that kind of exploration. It's important, it's for our security, and it's certainly saved Israel, no doubt in my mind. Your thoughts, 855-839-1210, the number to call. We have a great guest coming around the corner. And speaking of coming, I will get to your calls, 855-839-1210. But speaking of thinking about around the corner, what about a great family trip or a road trip, maybe to see the fall colors as the leaves change?
Segues, you know that?
What's that?
I said you're the queen of segues. Thinking about around the corner, you know.
Because you got to think about planning ahead for the road trip and seeing. Pennsylvania is one of the most beautiful places in the nation for our fall leaves changing. It's a great time of year. And so you have to ask yourself, is your vehicle fully ready to go place to place? That brings me to my friends at Piazza Premium Automobiles. They're going to help make sure that you and your family are safe out on the roads. These service centers of the Piazza Premium Automobiles, they not only handle all your regular maintenance needs, but they're going to diagnose any possible issues before they can happen. Just schedule a service appointment online today, PiazzaPremiumAutomobiles.com, Piazza, PiazzaPremiumAutomobiles.com for the dealer nearest you. Tell them Dolan sent you.
Hey, it's Rich. Zioli, winter is coming. Water will freeze and thaw around your property and into your foundation, and that's when the worst damage will happen. I used to worry about water, but then Garden State Earthworks solved my water problem for good. When we had our wet basement, it was caused by excess outside stagnant water. We called Garden State Earthworks. They assessed and drained the water away once and for all. Call the guy I trust, Lou Vargo at Garden State Earthworks, 856-848-4444 or GardenStateEarthworks.com.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
What's on the menu for football season? Pork, of course. Get ready for game day with Hatfield and put some pork on your fork. Elevate your kickoff cuisine and halftime feast with Hatfield's winning lineup of marinated pork tenderloins, pork loin fillets, ground pork and sausage, bacon and ham. Whether you're the tailgate king or gridiron gourmet, Hatfield helps you savor the taste of victory. Visit simplyhatfield.com for play-by-play menu inspiration. Find your flavor with Hatfield.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-525-8448. 800-525-8448. 800-525-8448.
Yo, Roy is Ford. We know your favorite station is 1210 WPHT. WPHT.
Just a reminder that the Weitzman National Museum of American Jewish History, not so far from where I'm reporting live from here at Odyssey World Headquarters, but the Weitzman, closer to Independence Hall, they're right at 5th and Market. So they're hosting this week-long exhibit that's displaying many artifacts from the actual Nova Music Festival, including burned-out cars, bullet-riddled bathroom stalls, personal belongings from some of the victims. And as well, the exhibit, by the way, arranged with the help of Governor Josh Shapiro, who is a Jewish American. It's 10 to 7:30 p.m. today. That's at the Weitzman National Museum as we commemorate this day of October 7th. And remember that they were playing music and they were holding commemorations at the hours of the terrorist attack 1 year ago. That was in Israel. We had talked about that, but just wanted to remind you of that. So speaking of, I know they're going to have extra security around the Weitzman, around many synagogues, for example, and even some Jewish schools. Unfortunately, we have to have beefed up security because of these threats, the level of anti-Semitism. That really brings in our next guest, who needs no introduction, and this is Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, who you know well, who's with the National Police Association now, but somebody who certainly has served in law enforcement at the local level, the state level, regional level, national level, now speaking for the National Police Association. So, Betsy, good morning. I know that you wanted to talk about, even at the federal level, FBI thinking about security being beefed up. Unfortunately, they have to do this around our synagogues and these sites where people are commemorating the terrorist attack a year ago.
Well, it is so unfortunate, Dawn, on this, very sacred day, and I love what you guys are doing there, that we have to think about this, on a local level, but also on a state and federal level. The FBI and DHS issued a joint statement talking about how October 7th could be a motivator for violent extremists, whether it's a lone wolf operator who decides, they want to make a name for themselves, or it's one of the who knows how many terrorists who are in this country, unfortunately, because of our open southern border, who are going to want to make a move on today. We also have to think about the college protests that, of course, are happening in California and New York, Washington, D.C. That started on Saturday. So at a time when we're a month away from a huge election, we already have so much crime occurring in this country. Now, largely local and state law enforcement are being burdened with additional big concerns when it comes to October 7th. But we want people to feel safe, and we want people to be able to grieve and remember, and I'm not sure a lot of people remember that 1,200 citizens of Israel were murdered in the most heinous way possible, and we need to remember and reflect.
Absolutely. And so it's a good point you make, because we're still down in numbers here in Philadelphia and across the country after the defund the police movement, trying to do those recruitments, but it just puts that burden, on individuals. And even I will say, I was looking at Temple University. They have many different events, and as a university, they're trying to work with Jewish students and pro-Israeli students to commemorate, the murder of the 1,200, but as well pray for the hostages currently, that they will come home. At the same point, Temple will, at different times, obviously, but there will be at Temple's campus and Drexel University's campus. I know that the Philly Palestine Coalition, they call themselves pro-Palestine, but they're viewed by many as anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. Are they inviting trouble? And especially when we think about the numbers of that were down in the police forces, not just in, let's say, Philadelphia police, but as well for the university police.
Well, American law enforcement reveres the First Amendment. And so, we all took that oath. And so we want people to be able to express themselves in whatever way that is legal and constitutional about this issue. Unfortunately, the anti-Semitism that we have seen since October 7, 2023, especially on college campuses, has been extraordinary. And we want Jewish students to be able to move freely about campus, to be able to grieve, to be able to remember, and to be able to go about their lives, get to their dorms. That was one of the biggest problems we saw on many universities around this country. And we didn't necessarily, not law enforcement, but leadership didn't exactly do a good job on some campuses of keeping Jewish students safe. So that's something that we're going to want to do today. We're going to want to see today. But you're absolutely right. When you see some of the fervor by people who believe they're pro-Palestinian, and again, and I know you've probably done this too, when you go up and talk to some of these young people, they don't really understand what they're protesting, what they're supporting. They really are poorly informed. And but there are lone wolf actors out there, and small groups of people who are in this country who want to disrupt. And this is a great opportunity, unfortunately, for them to be able to disrupt. So all of us, not just law enforcement, but all of us, students and citizens, we all need to be very aware today and throughout the week as the commemoration continues, even as the war continues in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's so true. And then I wanted to ask you about, and this was a story that I had reported earlier this morning during the news in Kale and Company, but this was a story of a 26-year state trooper in New Jersey. So served honorably, had retired, and then went to the Trump rally. This was J6. And then had pleaded guilty, I guess, before a judge in D.C. to a misdemeanor, to a felony misdemeanor, and prosecutors had wanted him to spend nearly a year, 11 months, behind bars in a federal prison. He was never accused of doing anything violent. The charge was that he was found guilty by a D.C. judge. There was not a jury involved, but this was that they said that he was guilty of a federal misdemeanor because he was shouting. I guess he gave the finger as he walked in the Capitol building and was captured on camera, never touched anybody, etc. But in this one, to me, I saw somebody serving 26 years, never an incident, as a New Jersey state trooper. And I thought, I hope that that's why the judge in this D.C. case did not sentence him to any jail time, but gave him probation. And on one hand, I thought, my goodness, why would they even have a take this guy, drag him through the courts for 3.9 years. He just on Friday was sentenced to probation, talked about how his family had gone through hell, the financial cost of the attorney. I just wanted to get your reaction to that latest. This is J6, to that latest sentencing of probation by a D.C. judge.
Well, when you look at this case, it's 61-year-old Michael Danielle. And I love how the media describes him. He was in the Capitol when the doors had been opened. He's in the Capitol with everybody else who went in. And here's the quote in the media. He's yelling and flashing a middle finger near police officers. Oh my goodness. If we could arrest people for giving the finger to local law enforcement, half the country would be in prison, Don. Yes. And so that's his, that's his crime. So when you look at this, the J6 fervor when it comes to people, committing alleged federal crimes, I think this was absolutely appropriate to sentence him to probation. I'm telling you, and I wish people would look at some of these. Most of these cases are absolutely insane. These people are truly being persecuted because when you look at the other 260 violent riots that occurred in 2020 and 2021, people did horrific things. People died.
Yes.
No police officers were killed on January 6th, just so everybody knows. Some were hurt, and it was a terrible, terrible time. Yes. But 260 violent riots around the country, and very few meaningful prosecutions except for what happened on January 6th. So I think that this retired state trooper, I think that was a real appropriate sentence for what he did.
And what about, I don't know if we've had a chance to talk about this since the headline hit, and that was, from Border Patrol talking about the fact that how many numbers of convicted killers, wanted terrorists in other countries have crossed the border, these child rapists and all these horrible stories of criminals being, coming across the border, even being intercepted, then let loose again, and then the impact on local law enforcement as we think about that, and then the terrorist threat aspect of it. What's your take on all of this news and the real impact on law enforcement across the board?
Well, of course, we've got, DHS came out with the numbers as far as ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They have a huge list. I think it's 7.2 million people on a list that they are trying to deport. They're trying to get their hands on. And of all these people, there's murderers, rapists, burglars. The list goes on and on and on. People either convicted in our country, charged, and some who have been convicted of murder in their own countries and yet end up here in our country. And I think one of the things that was lost in this story was 77,000 of these people have significant traffic offenses that they have been involved in since they've gotten here. Everybody, you wondering why your car insurance is going up? That's why. So this is the non-detained list, and it's incredibly frustrating. At 56,000 drug convictions, 13,000 convicted of homicide, 2,500 convicted of kidnapping, almost 60,000 sexual assaults. Now, DHS came out with a statement after these statistics were released, because remember, they were released right as Kamala Harris was visiting my home county right here where I sit in southern Arizona. And DHS came out with a statement that said, you're misinterpreting these statistics. And
it's a misinterpretation.
Don't believe your lying eyes, people, about all these. This is the thing. Again, are most people who come across our borders illegally, are they criminals? No. Just like most citizens of the United States are not criminals.
Thank God.
But we have enough criminals that we don't need to keep importing them.
Yes. Amen.
And they're doing a lousy job of deporting them, and that needs to that needs to be ramped up.
Betsy Brantner Smith and National Police Association. A lot of great news and headlines, and you always support local law enforcement at the National Police Association. So thank you so much. Once again, my friend, thank you.
Thanks, Dawn, for having me. Everybody go to nationalpolice.org. See the great stuff we're doing. Hit that donate button if you can.
nationalpoliceassociation.org. Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. Until next time, thank you so much. You talked about the safety of, taking a trip, thinking about getting away, maybe escaping all of this. I got to tell you, we've got another great trip in the works. This is kind of it's not a breaking news story because we broke it in Kale and Company earlier, but I'm so excited. And, we had such a great time and we've kept in touch. Actually, some of us have gotten together and will get together maybe in early November. But I'm talking about another visit to Paradise, the Italian Riviera. This is a gastronomical event that only Conservative Tours can deliver. So I want you to join me for 11 luxurious days with the professionals from Conservative Tours. They are hands down the best tour operator in all of Italy. So A+ rating with the BBB, with Better Business Bureau. I'm talking about Portofino, Rapallo, Santa Margherita Ligure, Tuscany, and the brilliant Cinque Terre. $53.78. And yes, that includes your airfare, $53.78. Dining events galore at the wineries. Remember last time, the wineries, some of the best memories, this time in Tuscany. Even an authentic farm we're going to visit to see Parmesan cheese being crafted by hand. You call toll-free, 888-733-9494. You can go to conservativetours.com. Hidden Italian villages that you've never seen, like Giacomo Puccini, San Gimignano, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Florence. I have been to Florence, Michelangelo. Florence is stunning. And Milan. And then we will conclude the trip on the Lakes region. This is such a gorgeous region. Bellagio, Orta, and Isola Bella. Join me next spring in Italy, conservativetours.com. Last time we sold out so quickly. So I'm telling you, go to conservativetours.com. Make sure you tell them Dawn sent you, and we'll see you in Cinque Terre.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
The Phillies even things up with the Mets. Game 3 of the NLDS is tomorrow night in Queens. Milton is now a major hurricane and is expected to hit Florida later this week. And new research finds that most of us don't feel comfortable talking about our money problems with our loved ones.
Get the latest anytime on KYW News Radio. Now on Crystal Clear 103.9 FM.
You've never needed us more.
The following is a paid commercial message.
Bob Casey supported radical sanctuary city policies, and Casey said,
I want to be held accountable if something doesn't work out well.
Casey's sanctuary city policies haven't worked out well. They release dangerous illegal immigrants onto our streets. In fact, Casey's sanctuary city policies released one illegal immigrant felon in Philadelphia who then raped a 5-year-old Pennsylvania girl. Casey made us all less safe. Casey not only supports these crazy policies that put convicted felons back on our streets, he'd make things even worse. Casey voted to give illegals with violent criminal records amnesty. Casey supported amnesty even for illegals convicted of domestic violence and child abuse. Rewarding illegals convicted of domestic violence and child abuse? It's insane.
I want to be held accountable.
It's time to hold Casey accountable. It's time for a change. It's time to fire Bob Casey. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. SenateLeadershipFund.org.
With so much uncertainty in the world today, you may find yourself wondering, is now even the right time to retire?
So many people are waiting, and those folks are going to be waiting a really long time, I hate to say, because there's no perfect time. The market is always unpredictable and volatile.
Fortunately, Jim Cipriotti has been helping get people to, through, and beyond retirement for over 25 years. And each week, he wants to help give you that freedom to retire. Listen to Freedom to Retire with Jim Cipriotti, Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday afternoons at 5 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth.
And sometimes that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Free speech lives here. With Dom Giordano, weekdays noon till 3 on Odyssey's #1 talk station, 1210 WPHT.
So much to talk about this morning, but I want to take you back to Butler, Pennsylvania. An incredible rally. We'll get to Trump, we'll get to Elon Musk, but Pennsylvania's native son, a combat veteran, West Point, went on to certainly achieve high success in the private enterprise business world. Dave McCormick, who's running for Senate, hopes for your vote on the Republican side, hopes to defeat a career politician, if you will, longtime Senator, Democrat Bob Casey. McCormick took the stage. Listen in.
It is hard to believe that it was just almost 3 months ago that many of us were here. I was sitting right over here and saw the tragedy play out on that day. The tragedy. And we're here to mourn, really here in sorrow, to mourn the loss of Corey Compertor, but not only mourn his loss, to honor who he was, because he's sort of the best of everything about America. He was a role model for everything that's great about this incredible country.
So I want to get Corey Comperatore there, but I also have him talking about the strength that President Trump brings versus the weakness of Biden that I wanted to hit before he joins us, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. And the choice could not be more stark. It's a choice between strength of President Trump, the guy you saw on this stage saying, fight, fight, fight. And weakness we've seen under President Biden and Vice President Harris. It's a choice between common sense policies to get prices down, get our economy back on track, open up our energy sector, secure our border, bring law and order to our cities, and make sure Americans remain safe from adversaries around the world, because we're strong. Peace through strength.
So one more clip we want to get to of McCormick on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. Great rally on Saturday. If you were there, I want to hear from you if you have any takeaways. But Dave McCormick will be joining us coming up in just minutes. So here is McCormick talking about being strong, especially when it comes to strong policies on our economy.
So we need to turn into this election and recognize that we're facing a crossroads. And if we take our country in the right direction, if all of you do what you need to do on November 5th, if you get out your friends, if you get out the vote, we need an army of people going out to save our country.
So I meant to say getting out the vote. Obviously, you talked about the economy first, but you get the point. Wanted to, just so you had a flavor of some of his speech, and want to ask him around the corner about the recent debate. The first debate, there's another one upcoming mid-October against his opponent, and your take as well. Maybe you have a question. So we'll welcome in Dave McCormick just ahead. I think one of the takeaways I have, you can tell why it's important to stump, to be on the campaign trail talking to people, because it's like lifting weights. You can tell that he's just getting more and more comfortable. It's not easy to talk in front of 80 or 100,000 people, how many at these rallies and these different events. So that's one of my takeaways. I just see him getting more and more comfortable. But is he breaking through as mail-in voting obviously is happening right now? So we'll get to hear from Dave McCormick and some things maybe you haven't heard about the rally on Saturday, some of the behind the scenes. Be right back with McCormick. Stay right here, and thank you for being here.
Tommy! I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is an ad for BetterHelp Online Therapy. October is for wearing masks, but sometimes we hide more often than we want. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/healthieryou today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/healthieryou.
Upgrade your bathroom with Emmons Remodeling.
We offer custom design, build, renovation services to fit your style and budget. Our designers work closely with you to create the perfect space for you and your family.
Experience luxury and functionality with the expert team at Emmons.
So call us at 856-885-6677. Again, that's 856-885-6677, or visit us at callemmons.com. From top to bottom,
to inside and out,
at Emmons, we have you covered.
You do everything you can for your family. A nice home, good food, family fun, and the right medical care. You plan ahead for your kids' future and their education. That's all great, unless something unexpected happens to you. If you were to die, who would pay the mortgage and all the other bills? Would your family have to sell their home just to survive? That's why you need to call Term Provider for the lowest rates available on quality term life policies, period. Rates for term life are at all-time lows, and Term Provider could save you 50, 60, even 70%. Already have coverage? Call and see if you're paying too much. Term Provider could save you thousands. And if your health isn't perfect, even more reason to call. We'll match you with the right policy even if you have weight issues like diabetes or high blood pressure. Right now, your family's protected. Make sure that protection continues if something unexpected happens to you. Call for a free quote and see if you can save up to 70%. Call 800-200-1966 now. That's 800-200-1966. 800-200-1966.
Talk Radio 1210, WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3, Philadelphia. Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Live and local from Philadelphia. The Dawn Stensland Show on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
What the Democrats have done and Bob Casey's voted for has been the most idiotic energy policy I've ever seen. So first of all, we constrained our natural resources, particularly fracking around the world in Pennsylvania. You don't have to ban fracking to ban fracking. All the things he's voted for and supports bans fracking. And essentially what's happened is we've lost our ability to be energy dominant. We've hurt ourselves in terms of creating these great jobs. It's not just not losing jobs. We have the fourth largest natural gas reserves in the world. We're black.
So that is Dave McCormick during the big debates and challenging somebody who is obviously a career politician, longtime politician, a well-known name in Pennsylvania, Senator Bob Casey Jr. And in this one, what was interesting, some of the headlines locally even acknowledged that Bob Casey had refused to say if or whether Biden or Harris, whether people are better off, under Biden-Harris than they were 4 years ago. So that was one of the great moments during what was, I think, a pretty heated debate. Welcome in Dave McCormick, who's joining me live. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Don, great to be with you.
Absolutely. One thing I will say, you're getting more comfortable. It's not easy. People don't realize, even somebody who's criticizing Elon Musk, it doesn't matter who you are, even if you're Elon Musk with a lot of followers, he's a billionaire. But to stand on that stage with a roaring crowd, that's quite an experience.
Yeah, you get used to it, but you're right. And, you start to talk 4 or 5 times a day, and the message becomes clear. And the message here is most important election of our lifetimes and a fundamental choice between, in my case, someone who's a seventh generation Pennsylvania, someone who's an outsider, political outsider, someone who's a business guy, West Point graduate, combat vet, versus a guy who is a career politician, 30 years in elected office, has been weak when we need strength, and has voted for this extreme liberal agenda that's really out of step with Pennsylvania. So it's really a choice between change and the status quo. And I think people are seeing that, and that was what I was trying to highlight in the debate. If you're comfortable with where things are, you should vote for Bob Casey. If you want change, I'm the guy that can bring that as Pennsylvania's next senator, and I'd be honored to do it.
Yeah, so during the debate, Bob Casey he kept talking about Connecticut. He had familiar themes and didn't necessarily want to, talk about his record. Why do you think that is?
Well, listen, when you're a 3-term senator, 18 years in the Senate, and he spent 90% of his money, his time talking about me. I think he had 7 or 8 responses in that debate, which is, Connecticut, so forth and so on. And I think when, we don't have a record to run on, you attack the other guy. And in this case, it's not working. He spent $50 or $60 million more than me this summer attacking me, and the polls have closed. And essentially, he's trying to make it sound like I'm not a Pennsylvanian when I've lived the majority of my life here. I was born here. I grew up here. I left Pennsylvania at the age of 18 to go to West Point and serve in our military. I came back and ran a company that created, hundreds of jobs in Pennsylvania. I had 3 of my 4 daughters in Pennsylvania, went to public service again. So my Pennsylvania connection could not be stronger. I've got a family farm in Bloomsburg where I grew up that I've owned for almost the last 20 years. So I am someone who has had a career of success in the military and business that can bring change to Pennsylvania. And Bob Casey's got nothing to say because he's like Punxsutawney Bob. I said this, my mom's from Punxsutawney. He pops his head up every 6 years to run for elected office, but he actually hasn't done anything he can point to. And I think Pennsylvanians, 80% of them feel like the country's going in the wrong direction. I think they know that.
Yeah, and I will say that with name calling, the Punxsutawney Bob, I think is not. It's funny, and so kudos. I don't know if somebody in your family came up with that, but it's funny, but it's not mean, and you know what I mean. And so nobody can say he's being mean or it is a little bit lighthearted.
Well, the challenge here, is politics is tough. It's a contact sport. So I knew that when I get into it. I ran in the primary last time, as you know, and lost a race of a 1.5 million votes. I lost by 900. So, I've been down this road once before. But the key here is to have a battle. And I think we need to have a big battle, a big fight for ideas. Mm-hmm. The ideas of common sense, securing the border, getting the economy back on track, bringing down prices, law and order in our communities, opening up our natural gas sector, against the ideas of Kamala Harris and Bob Casey, which are ideas in her own words, which Bob Casey has supported 99% of the time: ban fracking, transition energy workers, have mandatory buybacks of guns, defund the police, legalize or give amnesty to and then citizenship to 10 million illegal immigrants. This is a big difference. And so, we got to hit hard to make sure the ideas, the difference between the ideas is clear. But we need to do that in a way that's not dehumanizing, not trying to make the other side, in my opinion, seem evil. So the campaign I'm trying to run, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it, is to hold Senator Casey accountable for his dismal performance. He's been an incredibly weak liberal senator, but also talk about a positive vision for the future for Pennsylvania, the kind of leadership I can bring. And that's the kind of senator I'm going to be, as someone who's, I'm a Republican, obviously. I'm a conservative, but I'm running to represent all Pennsylvanians, Democrats and Republicans, independents alike, and the problems of inflation and fentanyl and crime and all energy prices are not unique to one party. Those are problems we need to solve for everybody.
Yes. And so as far as the U.S. Senate, the United States Senate, what would, what is something that you would look forward to? Because right now, obviously, the balance of power, the vice president right now, she's the deciding vote. And a lot of people are upset about some of the things that have been voted upon. There's some ironically named pieces of legislation like the Inflation Act and so on and so forth. But this is important. And so what are some of the issues that you would look forward to debating and voting on?
Well, you ran that clip. I think, the long pole in the tent for Pennsylvania's future is energy. Because that could transform Pennsylvania. I had the governor of Oklahoma came to visit a couple weeks ago to campaign, and Oklahoma's on fire, but Pennsylvania is not on fire because we have this incredible natural resource in our natural gas that is great paying jobs. It's not just keeping the jobs we have; it's doubling, tripling, quadrupling the opportunity. It brings down the cost of energy for manufacturing. It's great for manufacturing, great jobs. It's great for our national security. And it's great for the environment. We've reduced carbon emissions by about 20% in the United States over the last 10 years. The way to get carbon emissions globally reduced is to export our clean natural gas to coal-fired plants in India and places like that. So energy policy is a disaster right now under Biden. And we've subsidized all these hundreds of billions of dollars for electric vehicles and solar panels, which has driven up inflation and made us dependent on China. For lithium batteries and solar panels. So this is an area where just common sense needs to prevail. And I think I can be a really strong voice on that for Pennsylvania and getting reform for pipeline permitting and getting reform for drilling, maybe an offshore export facility over someplace around Philadelphia where we could export our natural gas around the world. This would change Pennsylvania's future and create, literally hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of jobs. For every fracking job, there's about 3 to 4 more jobs, restaurants, hotels, mechanics, drivers that are derivative of it. So this can change our future, and I'd love to lead the charge on that on behalf of Pennsylvania.
For you, is there anything, I know that when Nick Cale and I had interviewed Donald J. Trump last time, and just talking to him about, his kids, he had mentioned his teenage son, Barron, had given him some advice. So between you and your wife, Dina, I know you're a girl dad, but are there things either that your kids or family members say, you should really do this, Dave or Dad, or are there things that you wish you had said during the last debate or said a little differently to bring across your point?
Well, two things. My 6 daughters, we're very proud of them, but they're proud of me for the many things I've done, but they're most proud of my service in the military. And we've taken them for years, every year to the Army-Navy game, which is, America's game. And I don't like to beat my chest on that because there's so many people that have done so much to serve our country, including making the ultimate sacrifice. But I wish I would have spent a little more time talking about West Point, talking about going to Ranger School, volunteering for the 82nd Airborne Division, which is a parachute unit, going into the first wave of troops into Iraq, being recognized for my service there. That would have been something I want to keep reinforcing because it's so core to who I am, duty, honor, country from West Point, and my girls are very proud of that, and I'm proud of that, and so I wish I could have spent more time on that. My girls are also, they're big focused on the environment, and I'm focused on the environment. Now, I'm an environmentalist, a conservationist. What's being presented by the Democrats is a false choice. You can have, clean energy, but if you go clean energy, you're going to have to deal with rising prices for fuel and stopping fracking and all these other things, and that's just nonsense, as I just described. So I wish I would have spent a little more time talking about what we just talked about, the role that energy could provide to Pennsylvania's future. Clean energy.
And I know that, on this solemn day, we just are marking 1 year. It's hard to believe that it has been a year. We still have hostages, including 4 American hostages being held, hope to God, still alive. And I know that Senate Republicans are marking the October 7th attack in Congress. Can you speak to why this is such an important issue and how you would handle this as a United States Senator?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I wanted to talk about that because it is such a solemn day. And, Dean and I went to Israel in early January. We saw firsthand the brutality, the carnage of October 7th. We went to a village, Kfar Aza, 800 residents, 100 were butchered on that day. We met with hostage families. We met with survivors of the music festival. It was brutal, evil in its most fundamental form. And we need to support Israel. We need to fight or support Israel's fight for its future, because it's truly an existential risk. And we also need to fight the horrific anti-Semitism we've seen here at home. I'm not Jewish. I obviously knew anti-Semitism lurked beneath the surface, but I've been dumbfounded, shocked by what we've seen. A good friend of mine, Dan Senor, who came and did a podcast here at an event with us a couple weeks ago, described it as it's you're out in the night and it's like a flare goes up. October 7th was a flare, and you see when the flare's up who your real friends are. And sadly, too many of our leaders have failed to show the moral courage and leadership needed in this time of existential crisis for Israel and a rise of anti-Semitism at home. We see that with Liz McGill at Penn. We see that with many college presidents. We see it, honestly, John Fetterman's been a model of moral courage, even though John Fetterman and I probably disagree on like 98% of things. And Bob Casey's been a weak voice, endorsing Summerlee and, supporting the Iran deal and so forth. So I think this is a solemn moment to not be political, frankly, but to spend our time mourning what happened on October 7th. And, what I've learned in the Jewish community is everybody's connected to this. American Jews here, almost all of them know someone or are close to someone or know someone who knew someone. This affects the Jewish communities. This affects us all in a very, very personal, very heartbreaking way. And we still, have hostages that aren't back with their families. So on this day, we pray and we show solidarity, and we just should renew our commitment to standing with Israel and fighting this horrible scourge of anti-Semitism here at home.
Yeah, it's so true. Dave McCormick, before you head off, I just wanted to ask you about something, because I believe you've spoken to people about this. I have family members with a niece who has autism, friends who I know wish that there's more done as far as people with mental health disabilities and as well just differently abled people. We've seen some school cuts that we've heard about, I know, in this area, because there were issues of school cuts, and some of the services that have been cut back on were those, and I know this personally because of a relative and her son. And so what do you say to that kind of funding on the national level?
Well, first of all, before I forget, for people who are listening who want to learn more about me on this issue and many others, you can go to DaveMcCormickPA.com, and I've laid out my entire agenda. And I think there's probably no campaign in the country that's been more specific about what he or she is for than I have. And one of the things I highlight there is the mental health crisis, and we see it. I think social media is a source of mental stress and challenge for young children. We've seen this with our 6 daughters. We see an enormous uptick in mental health crises with our veterans, with the sad realization of 22 of our veterans taking their lives every single day. It's been that average for 20 years. What a catastrophic failure. We see it with school violence, gun violence in schools, and the intersection of the mental health crisis. So I think it's fair to say this is a national crisis. I mean, of enormous proportion that cuts across different groups and different ages, and we've got to treat it like the national crisis that it is. And so we're woefully underfunded, both at the national level and at the state level, in terms of the kinds of facilities to help people transition, the kinds of transition away from a mental health challenge, to have the support they need, the counseling they need, the medication they need. So I think it's one of those problems that doesn't lend itself to a single solution. The area that I know most about is veterans, and the mental health crisis with veterans is largely driven by a resource problem and an access problem. So even if there's mental health support, we're not connecting veterans in trouble to that mental health support. So there's a lot to be done, but I think the first thing we got to do is elevate it to the crisis level that it really is and make it a national priority. And I would certainly seek to do that as Pennsylvania's next senator.
Dave McCormick, I hope we can continue the conversation next time. Thank you so much, and thank you, obviously, for your military service. Dave McCormick, thank you.
Thank you. Always my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. By the way, there was a headline that I just saw with Pennsylvania shattering a record at nearly $1 billion overall in election spending. So some of these races, you think about the spending, it's mind-boggling to me. And I wish that we could take all that money and devote it to services and just make sure that people, I don't know, I just wish we had like a debate a day or something, have a countdown. I just think sometimes this is crazy to have this level of spending. Just overall, I'm talking about Pennsylvania politics and all these ads. And sometimes I feel like also there's a point where you just kind of zone it all out. 855-839-1210. Do I have to take a break? Okay, got to take a break. Your thoughts, 855-839-1210, the number to call. So much still, jam-packed show still ahead. Be right back.
Harry, if you watch any more of those stupid financial shows, I'm filing for divorce.
How am I going to keep up with our retirement accounts?
At JML Financial Group, we want you watching your grandkids playing soccer and sunsets in Hawaii, not the latest rumor of a market crash. Surprisingly, with proper income planning, the stock market shouldn't even be a concern. The money came in every 2 weeks while you worked. It should be the same in your retirement years. Let us show you how. Call JML Financial Group today at 856-925-6674. That's 856-925-6674. Or at jmlfinancialgroup.com. So, when your neighbor's sunbathing in the front yard,
Harry, you're an idiot. Get away from the window.
keep your eyes focused where they should be, on enjoying your retirement. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. Brokers International Financial Services, LLC is not an affiliated company.
The following is a paid commercial message.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message. So many of you have told me about your plans for the future. Starting a business, buying a home, retiring near your grandchildren. But prices are too high. So let me tell you what I will do about it as president. I will take on price gouging. I will lower the cost of healthcare insurance. We cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. I'm running to do that for everyone. And I will provide new down payment assistance to first-time home buyers and tax benefits to people who want to start their own business. Donald Trump, well, he wants to give more tax breaks to the wealthy, whereas I will cut taxes for the middle class instead. Because I know working people want to do more than just get by. You want to get ahead, and that's the future you deserve. And that is what I will focus on every day as your president. Paid for by Harris for President.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
Wow, honey, have you seen the electric bill?
Yeah, it's out of control. But have you heard of Navien tankless water heaters?
Tankless? How does that even work?
Well, instead of constantly heating and storing water, it only heats water when we need it. So much more efficient than our giant tank heater.
That sounds great. Let's look into Navien.
Already on it.
Imagine all the hot water you need only when you need it. Bulky tanks are history. Navien High Efficiency Tankless is the future. Compact, wall-hung units free up floor space, lower energy bills, longer life than tanks, and a 15-year warranty. Find out more at tanklessmadesimple.com.
This is a commercial for California Psychics, America's most trusted psychic network. So, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. No, really, this is it.
You won't see your soulmate's face in the clouds or your career path mapped out in your cappuccino foam. This really is it. We could add some dramatic sound effects if you'd like. So what you waiting for? Experience the joy of certainty at CaliforniaPsychics.com.
Deborah Heart and Lung Center and Cleveland Clinic Heart Vascular and Thoracic Institute have formed a powerful alliance. Legends in caregiving New Jersey families, the most sophisticated heart team in America. Innovators in research and patient care who've made life better for thousands of patients, raising the standard for the next generation of care. The alliance between Deborah Heart and Lung Center and Cleveland Clinic Heart Vascular and Thoracic Institute means the highest quality care close to home for you. DemandDeborah.org.
Hey, Clementon. We know your favorite station is Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. WPHT.
As I was saying,
obviously former President Trump, multiple rallies over the weekend. The big one for us here in Pennsylvania was the return to Butler, which was the return to the crime scene that we've talked about all morning long. He also talked about the hurricane, the aftermath of the storms, the deadliest since Katrina. I'll talk about why I disagree with former President Trump a little bit in his comments. I'll explain as far as from a media category or aspect. But right now, the breaking news of the moment is that there is another storm brewing in the Gulf. This is Hurricane Milton, which is right now, it has intensified to a high-end Category 4. This is from the National Weather Service, that they say it's a high-end Category 4 hurricane, 155-mile-an-hour winds, and it's expected to strengthening within just the next few hours, and this is to a Category 5 hurricane with 160-mile-an-hour winds. And so this is expected. Usually they weaken slightly as they approach land, but even if it weakens, do you know what I'm saying? It's going to be so strong that even if it's now strengthening to a 5, and it's a powerful 5, that means that if it weakens, is it going to strike landfall around Tampa at 155 miles an hour? Oh my God. This is horrible news. And this thing's coming out of nowhere because it's coming so fast, barreling toward Florida. And so although it's going to make landfall either Wednesday night, so this is new information we're getting from the hurricane, centers and National Weather Service. So initially, they said Wednesday night, could it be early Thursday morning? Is it going to hit sooner? And this is now sparking these huge evacuations that are historic, as Governor DeSantis has been holding these live newsers where he is saying, we need to evacuate because you have storm-ravaged areas already, and this thing is going to hit the Gulf Coast side. It looks like around Tampa, and then go across that midsection of Florida. It looks like right now they're saying that it would go across and back into the Atlantic, but what impact and all the rain, etc., will it have on the storm-ravaged areas? Looking at the 5 other southern states, and I'm talking about, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, all those southern states that are already recovering in historic, horrible ways, as that death toll in the Carolinas, for example, and the other 5 states and Florida hits 230. So I know that Trump also referred to this. Did you want to go to DeSantis? I see you queuing things up, Dan.
If there's anything that you had about the evacuation.
Okay.
Right here.
Because I know DeSantis has been holding these all morning. They're evacuating South Florida, and they're just saying we got to get out, and we don't want to take any chances. And DeSantis doing an incredible job, let's just say. He's already mobilized the National Guard and all of that.
I do have him on the evacuations here.
Let's listen in.
Today, you have time to execute your plan, but you got to do it now. There have been some evacuations that have been issued. There's going to be a flurry of them today. I know the counties are working on opening shelters. They typically will open the shelters after they have the evacuation go out, not before. So make sure that you're following the news coming out of your local county. But all these barrier islands, all these areas that would be susceptible to this storm surge that's up and down the west coast of Florida, you should assume that there's going to be some form of evacuations that are going to be issued by your local county officials.
So this is the state beginning its largest evacuation efforts. That's since 2017, 51 of Florida's 67 counties under a state of emergency as the state is bracing for Hurricane Milton in Florida. This from Governor Ron DeSantis. So the governor urging residents pay attention and please abide by these evacuation orders for your safety. Time is running out. And so just begging with people, as they're saying, especially the Tampa Bay area, that's the urgent situation. Drowning deaths, they say, due to a storm surge are 100% preventable if you leave now. So urging people leave now. Let's listen in. Can we weave back into? We have to take a break. We have to take a break because I know that Trump talked about this, and I do want to address that and then get to Elon Musk. Your thoughts? 855-839-1210, the number to call. With the fall weather, and it's going to be cooler in the evenings, and it was this way over the weekend. So even though we're heating up during the day to these days of sunshine, mid-70s, in the evenings, tonight it's going to be down into the 50s. And I'm starting to, get out the crock pot, think about what a crock. I love what a crock, and do the chili, but also baking. Just the house just smells so good, and spending more time in my kitchen. And when it comes to your home, especially your kitchen, trust is everything. For 45 years, Kitchen Magic building a reputation for really transforming kitchens with such precision, professionalism, and care, from custom cabinets to countertops. What about the backsplash? And you need those storage solutions. Kitchen Magic gets the job done, and I mean fast. In just a few days, your dream kitchen becomes a reality without all the hassle. Trust the name your neighbors have relied on and trusted for decades. Kitchen Magic. Get your free in-home consultation at kitchenmagic.com. Kitchenmagic.com. Put this on the calendar. Let's cook up something extraordinary. Tell them Dawn sent you.
Pleasant weather is in the forecast for the week ahead. Sun and clouds, warm and breezy today with a high above average at 76. Cooler tonight, partly cloudy, low 50 for the city, cooler in the suburbs. Another nice day on Tuesday, plenty of sunshine with a high near 70.
The leaves are changing color, the air is crisp, and it's the perfect time to fall into savings on a luxurious new Volvo from Cherry Hill Volvo. Take advantage of these incredible offers. A 2025 XC40 for only $435 per month on a 36-month lease. A 2024 C40 for only $329 per month on a 36-month lease. Or get 3.99% financing on select new Volvos for 72 months. See store for details. Customers enjoy the stress-free and satisfactory experience Cherry Hill Volvo provides. Cherry Hill Volvo, where relationships matter.
Honey, is our car still under warranty?
No, not anymore.
My sister just got an extended service plan from Ox Car Care.
Ox Car Care?
Yeah, Ox will cover our repair bills if anything happens to our car, new brakes, a transmission, AC, or engine problems. Plus, Ox Car Care offers free oil changes, tire rotation, and roadside assistance.
Wait a minute, we pay nothing on the repairs? Ox gets it fixed for us? Free oil changes, free tire rotation, and free roadside assistance? What's the number?
800-224-8517. Ox has a 30-day money-back guarantee and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. They handle their claims from start to finish, unlike other warranty companies. We should call now, 800-224-8517.
The last thing we need is an unexpected car repair bill. I'm calling Ox Car Care now.
Call Ox Car Care for your free quote. 800-224-8517. Ask about senior and military discounts. Don't get stuck with a major car repair bill. Call Ox Car Care, 800-224-8517, or go to oxcarcare.com.
They're pounding on the door. They're calling on the phone.
They're threatening to close your business. If debt has your business on the brink, call Ray Reynolds, the godfather of credit. For over 40 years, Ray Reynolds has helped thousands of customers get millions in cash credit. It's no wonder why they call Ray the godfather of credit. He may even be able to raise your score above 750 before the end of the year. You could even get a new personal or business credit line up to $50,000 within days. If your credit needs a rebuild, call Ray Reynolds and receive a $1,000 cash credit card at closing. Raise your credit score to 750 or more. Call Ray Reynolds at 800-576-2295. 800-576-2295. Learn about Ray's secrets to success and how he can fix and improve your credit score to 750 or more. Call the godfather of credit rebuild, Ray Reynolds, at 800-576-2295. 800-576-2295.
Be sure to follow Talk Radio 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
So on this October 7th, as we think about the lives taken by terrorists who attacked on this day 1 year ago, October 7th, and we've been commemorating this day. And I know locally, I've been telling you, locally at the the Weitzman Museum here in Philadelphia, you can visit if you wish to pay tribute in that regard, and they've extended their hours today. But we want to get to a great author as we think about those inspired to sign up, to serve. You know, I talk about the hero gene, if you will, the chip in somebody's brain who, in the time of a crisis, decides to run toward it, to fight for what's right. And most of us run away, right? But there are those who are heroes among us. And just want to welcome in Captain Elkanah Kuno, who joins me now, the author of October 7th. Cohen, I should say. Kuno Cohen, the author of October 7th, The War Against Hamas Through the Eyes of an Israeli Commander Officer. So, Captain Cohen, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Dawn, for having me. It's an honor to participate in your program.
Absolutely. Can you take me through, first of all, I know that you wanted to say a few words on this day, October 7th. We're here in Philadelphia, and our hearts and our prayers are with you and, you know, really with everybody who's in America who feels the pain and the grief of this, who prays for our hostages to come home, but as well just to know, to let our Israeli friends know that we here in America, the vast majority of us, support Israel. But I know that you wanted to just think about today and your words as we just try to wrap our brains around this grief-stricken day.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking. And I also want to say thank you for you saying it's a Memorial Day, not just anniversary. I heard a lot of people saying it's anniversary. For us, it's an anniversary. It's not something, yes, it's been a year since that terrible day, but for us, it's a Memorial Day while we're trying to remember our dear friend that we lost through this terrible day, and also for the praying to bring back our brother and sister that's still in captivity, 101 hostages. And this day, October 7th last year, unfortunately, I lost 9 friends.
I'm so sorry.
And I want to say their names because for me it's better that the people will maybe just hear their names. So their names was Ari Buzaglo, Bern Borenstein, Mai Naim, Gaia Khalifa, Yotam Ben Basat, Arya Shlomo Ziering, Omri Michaeli, Roy Yosef Levi, and Eliad Ochayon. They died and murdered because they were dancing in a festival music, or they died because they were defending their country. And unfortunately, we lost those people along with other almost 1,200 people that was murdered that day.
Yes, and it's important, and we'll talk about your book in a moment, but I think what's also important to remember is that this was a situation where I think, and it's weird to say it this way, but in my humble opinion, the killing of the slaughter of these individuals, which is horrifying enough as it is, but then that some of this was videotaped. But it seems to me that the killing, the murder of these individuals, that was not necessarily the end goal or the only goal.
No, definitely. It wasn't their goal. It just was part of their goal. Their goal is to eliminate Israel, to kill as many Jews, and not only Jews, every person who taking part of the Western world and with the Western values. And Israel is their only first stop, but we saw them shouting death to Israel and along that while they're shouting death to America. And their goal was to kill as many people that have that kind of values of life, values of being for each other. And they basically tried to kill as many people as they could. I can tell you from my perspective that I fought side by side with Muslims and Christians. It's not only war against Jews or the state of Israel. It's much more bigger than that.
And so I even, at the beginning of my show, I talked about the fact, the way that some publications, here in Philadelphia and in America, the way that they call this or report on it as, well, there are two sides to the situation. And even on this day, as they talk on October 7th, they talk about, well, on this side, this is what and they're talking about what the so-called pro-Palestinian groups are doing, and on this side, what the pro-Israel, and they make it as if that this was a continuation, not necessarily what happened on this day. So to me, I want to talk about your book, the importance of your book, but in the context also of just making sure that people are fully educated on what happened October 7th, what's going on here. Because I will say there were many, even students, college students here in Philadelphia and cities and communities across the nation, they had no clue as to what the history of this conflict. They really didn't even know what they were against or for. I think they were just maybe joining something they thought was cool or popular. And that's why I think this conversation that we have with you, Captain Cohen, is very important.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe it's a good time for me to share one of the experience that we had, which I also tried to bring in the book. The reason why I published my book was to allow other people that wasn't there, that didn't took part in this war, to understand what we've been through, what was our thoughts, our feeling, who we were fighting for, and who we were fighting against. And one of the time, we got an intel of a school that was full with terror infrastructure. And we knew that we have to conquer that school, but we also knew that school was full with civilians. So as we always do, we start calling them all out, but no one left the area, no one left the school. And we didn't understand why. So we used a drone in order to scan the school from above. And then we saw that there is Hamas guards inside that school that did not let the civilians to leave the area. But more than that, one of the kids there, I think it was 5 years old, he tried to run away, and the Hamas guard shot him in his head and killed him in front of his mom. Shot his own people because he didn't want the civilians to leave the area, because he knew that we won't attack as long as there is civilians inside that school. So in this particular time, we understood that we have to kill those guards. But a couple of moments later, one of that guards went on the rooftop, and he was holding a baby in front of us. He knew exactly where we were. We were 200 meters away, which is in feet, let's say 400 feet away, maybe a bit more. And he was holding a baby just in front of us. And behind them was a man that was holding a camera and waited for us to take that shot. Well, we didn't take that shot. Not because we were that guy with the camera, but because we have different values. And unlike those terrorists and those savages, they brutally murdered, raped, and killed old people, young people. They butchered entire families on October 7th. And while we're talking, still trying to do that and holding 101 hostages while we're talking right now. We don't want to kill any baby. We're trying to do as much as we can in order to avoid any casualties, and we didn't take that shot. Even though at that specific time they knew exactly where we were, and they could aim any RPG, missile, weapon that they had towards us. I rescued my life that time and my friend's life, and we put them on the line because we didn't want to take that shot. Later on, he went on the rooftop again, and he was surrounded with a group of women. One of them banged a little bit, and it was enough for our snipers to take that shot and to eliminate that threat. And I'm sharing that because I want people to understand what's truly going on and what cruelty enemy we are dealing with. We're dealing with an enemy that don't care about his own population. He don't care about his own people. He's using his baby as human shield. So when I'm saying this war, it's not only our war, and this is the war of the entire world, but more than that, we are fighting for our sake, for our brother and sister, but also for the civilian sake there, because Hamas don't care about his own people. I just told you, he's using them as human shield. And I just hope that we will be able to make sure that we're eliminating all the terrorists, but allowing all the other people that are not supporting our deaths to be able to live there normally. I rather to have a peaceful life. I'm a newlywed and expecting father, a business owner. The last thing that I want to do is to participate in war. That day, I shut down my business. I wasn't able to see my wife for a long time, and my wife also did a enormous time under reserve duty. Me and my wife did together over 500 days that last year.
You know, with your book, which is books are timeless. This is, you know, your really a harrowing first-person experience of what happened and so much that you witnessed. But what do you want? And congratulations to you and your wife. What a beautiful blessing that you're expecting a baby. What do you hope and pray that you can share with your child someday about your book and this experience?
First of all, thank you. And what am I wishing? I wish that one day we will not need to fight. I truly want that. I truly want peace. But I also hope that I'll be able to show him. You see that guy on the street? He used to be kidnapped in Gaza. But we were able to rescue that guy and to save his life and to show him that even though we went through a Holocaust, it was almost as a Holocaust what they did on October 7th, we managed to build an incredible community and society. We still educating our kids to values of love, to love each other, to support each other for peace. And hopefully this is what we will be able to do. And this is what I'm really looking for.
Captain Cohen, thank you so much for sharing a part of your heart, a part of your life. And the book is October 7th, The War Against Hamas Through the Eyes of an Israeli Commando Officer. Captain Cohen, thank you so much for joining me. God bless.
Thank you very much. I also want to say thank you for everyone who support us. We feel that, and it's very important. And if there's anyone who wants to contact me, you're more than welcome to contact me through my Instagram account. It is Elkana_Kuno, which is ELKANA_KUNO. And you can find my book on Amazon. Thank you much for your support.
Thank you.
It's really mean a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. And beautiful to hear that he and his wife are expecting. That's exciting too.
Right.
You know, I'm glad that he has so much hope as well. Thanks for setting that great interview. Thanks for setting that up, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. And what a guy. I mean, just a IDF commando here, and talking about his kid. I mean, hopefully his kid, and you know, I think he wishes as well that, and you heard it from him, that this stuff ends. You know, we don't want this to keep. It's been going on for way too long, and let's get over this crap. And why are we have kids in college campuses supporting these terrorists? Like, we should be clearly standing on one side of this issue. It's crazy to me that we're yeah.
And I'm glad that he stated that, because that's what we hear all the time, that the people there, if they're there, right, the Gazans or Palestinians, however you want to describe, they're being used as human shields. We hear that over and over. And yet that's not the way it's portrayed in the media. And to Dan's point, that's why people don't realize the truth of the situation. So just really thank him. He was gracious with his time. And who knows, as his family expands, he's thinking about home and safety at home. I can't even imagine, and that's just it. When you think about your home and the sanctity of your home, all the memories in your home, the grief and the pain that these families, they've just been in my prayers for a year now, and certainly today. So I hope you will take a moment to pray for them and just their healing, and that we can go to a point where there is peace and healing. We'll talk about all of that and get into the policies that may make a difference. But when I think about my home, I can't help but think of all the beautiful work that Chapman windows, doors, and siding that they've done on my home to make my home more beautiful. I mean, I love the work they've done, and to make it more energy efficient, right? And beautiful, curb appeal, all that good stuff. Think about the resale. But maybe you want to think about doing this and getting this on the calendar now, whether it's a makeover for a new front door, or whether you need a couple of windows or all the new windows. The Chapman family team, Mike and Mark Chapman, great brothers. They've been in the community, been in business for more than 3 decades at this point. They're going to work with you on that. And so maybe you want to budget it, whether it's time-wise or whether it's financial-wise, but you want to say, you know what, we want to do everything at once, or you know what, we just want to do these 3 or 4 windows. They're always going to work with you, and not everybody does that. They also have a carpenter or carpenters on staff. If you want a little custom work or you want something special, there's no project too small or too large for them. So that's part of what I love about them. And everything's up front. Everything's in writing. There are no surprises. And let's say you say, I need some finishing touches. I've got some paint for the foyer that was for me. Of course, we can do some touch-up work, and they put that in there. So whether it's windows, doors, siding, shutters, all the hardware choices, you can just give them a call. You can text. They're local. They're like-minded. A real person answers the phone, and they're a local person. That's important, too. 610-431-8898, ChapmanWindowsDoors.com. Chapman, the name I trust. Tell them Dawn sent you.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie, and one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When was the last time you watched your home movies?
Disasters strike unexpectedly. Every year, American families lose the one thing they'd run back into a burning building for, their family's memories. Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Adam. We started Legacy Box to help save your family's most important recorded moments so you don't have to worry.
Load Legacy Box with your old movies, film reels, and shoeboxes of photos.
We work our digitizing magic, converting those memories right to the cloud so they're safe and accessible forever.
It's fast, we always send your originals back, and it's done right here in the USA.
Over 1 million families have trusted Legacy Box. Better Homes and Garden, Real Simple, and Inc. magazine are all talking about Legacy Box.
New York Times columnist David Pogue says, have them digitized. I wish I'd done it sooner. Take action. Save your family's memories today with Legacy Box.
Go to legacybox.com/value to get an incredible 50% off your Legacy Box. That's legacybox.com/value for 50% off while supplies last. legacybox.com/value.
Support the Evesham Township Police Foundation. See Joe Conklin and the City Rhythm Orchestra at Cherokee High School in Marlton, Saturday, October 26th.
Conklin doing his thing, his best voices, his best shtick. Joe's family is just, they're like back from the Osmonds. They're Osmonds on steroids. They're unbelievable.
They made fun of the Cowboys, though. I've known him for such a long time, but I did not know he could sing like that.
That's Conklin with City Rhythm at Cherokee High School in Marlton, New Jersey, October 26th. For tickets, go to joeconklin.com.
JoeConklin.com!
The following is a paid commercial message. Bob Casey supported radical sanctuary city policies, and Casey said,
I want to be held accountable if something doesn't work out well.
Casey's sanctuary city policies haven't worked out well. They released dangerous illegal immigrants onto our streets. In fact, Casey's sanctuary city policies released one illegal immigrant felon in Philadelphia who then raped a 5-year-old Pennsylvania girl. Casey made us all less safe. Casey not only supports these crazy policies that put convicted felons back on our streets, he'd make things even worse. Casey voted to give illegals with violent criminal records amnesty. Casey supported amnesty even for illegals convicted of domestic violence and child abuse. Rewarding illegals convicted of domestic violence and child abuse? It's insane.
I want to be held accountable.
It's time to hold Casey accountable. It's time for a change. It's time to fire Bob Casey. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. SenateLeadershipFund.org.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call us now. $30 billion was set aside for meso victims. And in most cases, your claim is settled out of court without a jury trial. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
With so much uncertainty in the world today, you may find yourself wondering, is now even the right time to retire?
So many people are waiting, and those folks are going to be waiting a really long time, I hate to say, because there's no perfect time. The market is always unpredictable and volatile.
Fortunately, Jim Cipriotti has been helping get people to, through, and beyond retirement for over 25 years. Each week, he wants to help give you that freedom to retire. Listen to Freedom to Retire with Jim Cipriotti, Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday afternoons at 5 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Is thinning hair or a receding hairline making you self-conscious? Try Hair Grow from New Nordic. Stop feeling embarrassed about your thinning hair and start feeling your best with Hair Grow.
Yo, Roy is Ford. What? We know your favorite station is 1210 WPHT.
One thing, they showed us how bad they are. They showed us how bad a job they do. So that's one thing we got from this 4 years. They've done the worst job. It's the worst president in the history of our country. It's the worst vice president in the history of our country. And if you watched over the last couple of days, they are doing, this is a Katrina for them. This is one of the worst, they say it's the worst job ever done on helping people through the ravages of a hurricane.
So Trump at the big rally here in Pennsylvania at Butler, the only piece of this I'll disagree with is that the liberal media, it was liberal back then, maybe people didn't realize it, but during Katrina, Bush, then President Bush, was on the ground. After 2 days, the media was ripping him as racist, etc. And so it's the media that makes the difference. So perhaps in performance, perhaps that will show to be true, the slower reaction. But I will say this, that the media complicit in this one, right? That the media was biased back then against Bush. And who was the president to call that out finally? This former President Donald J. Trump. Supreme Court, I had mentioned to you a couple times since 6 o'clock this morning, since we started on Kale & Company, that today is day one of a new session for SCOTUS already. They have dealt a defeat for Elon Musk and his ex-core. So Musk had said that Special Counsel Jack Smith had violated the First Amendment when they wanted the search warrant. Here's Musk up on stage just on Saturday.
And then make sure they actually do vote. If they don't, this will be the last election. That's my prediction.
That's his prediction. So obviously he's coming out strong for Trump here in Pennsylvania, stumping. I love the black MAGA look with the black on black hat. But Supreme Court also declining to hear First Amendment challenges in gun display and Confederate statue protest cases, and booting out the case that Musk hoped they would hear. And so these are huge stories, just making breaking news this morning. That's why it's beautiful that we're live and local, because we can expand on this throughout the day right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. And I'm sure that I'm sure it's something you want to talk about, Dom.
Yeah, Dawn, Eric Trump coming
Perfect.
by, and I'm interested that Madeline Dean tagging up with Elizabeth Warren just revealed that General Mills reduced the size of Cocoa Puffs from 19.3 ounces to 18.1.
Not the Cocoa Puff.
It is an outrage. Glad that Madeline Dean's on it. Hey, Madeline, how about bicycles from Red China? Are we reducing the rate on those with your husband?
Now we know why they're cuckoo. Blame Cocoa Puffs.
Yes.
The Dom Giordano Show is right now.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really